All right, so today we're going to take a look at parking lot design and adding components to your parking lot, adding some site components, parking lot components, that sort of stuff. We're going to spend most of our time today on the massing and site tab here at the top. And it's going to give us options for our topo surface, our site components, parking components, and some of our merge and split surface options here as well. You're going to notice I am in my 3D view here. And I actually will prefer to work in my 3D view for this, even though usually I tell you not to put most components in 3D view. For this, I actually think that the 3D view works pretty well, so I'm going to stay here in 3D view for this. I do want you to note, once you get into the actual Revit site, you're going to see you have got a lot more space than you probably thought you did. And I was telling you guys that all along, but you'll see that once you get in, you get a feel for it. There's much more space than you thought. You can spread out a lot more. You can give yourself a lot more space for all of your components, putting in all your different stuff, all of that. So take a look. If I zoom in here into my parking lot, I do want to mention before I get started here, I have trees, and you'll note that I am actually currently in my visual styles, I'm using shaded. Now, I often will prefer realistic for most things that I'll do, but I want you to notice here, once I get in realistic, all the trees and planting and stuff is given actual realistic textures. That puts a huge strain on the computer. Now, this computer that we're operating on right here is one of the best you're ever going to use. Better than almost any gaming rig you're ever going to buy. Run almost anything you'd ever want to run. And yet, I want you to note, it lags. See what I'm doing here? It lags as I try to operate in 3D mode the number of trees and planting options that I've got going on here. It actually doesn't even display them all until I let go. If I try to orbit around, it is just not at all a positive experience. If you're going to work with trees and planting, I highly recommend in 3D mode, switch to shaded, watch the difference. Significant difference. Please keep that in mind as you're working. It will change your entire workflow. You only really need to see the trees looking that way when you're doing your renderings, your final renderings. You really don't have to worry about it in this stage. So I recommend working in shaded mode. All right, let's get back to a top-down view. Flip it around. All right, for my parking lot, I decided just to have access from the left-hand street, not the right-hand one. You may have done either or both, whatever you've chosen to do. It's really up to you. I want to get in here nice and close to the parking lot, and I want to take a look at the difference between a site component and a parking component. Let's take a look at parking component first. I'm going to select parking component, and you'll notice that our parking space is already pre-selected under my properties. 9 by 18 standard size parking space, 60, 70, 80, or 90 degrees for all your different options for how you're going to place in your parking spaces are already there. What if I want to put something else there? If I want a different type of thing, parking space, I'm going to go to my load family. Now, I want you to note, nowhere in here when you're looking at anything does it tell you what type of component you're looking at. Is it a parking component? Is it a site component? Is it just a component? Is it a door? Is it a window? You've probably been in a situation where you've tried to load something and it tells you you must load a component of the appropriate type, right? It's all trial and error. You gotta try stuff. So I actually want to walk you through this US Imperial folder here, all the stuff we've got. I don't want to go through everything, but I want to show you there are things hidden away in here that you might want to find. You really have to do some digging to see what's in some of this folder structure. And you've probably found some things I don't even know exist, but having gone through some of this here. So, for example, if we go to detail items, you're going to find all kinds of extra folders in here. The things that you didn't know existed. Interior improvements, what do we have in here? Curbs and gutters. What if you want to actually put in curbing? There you go. It's all there. Pull that in from there. What about specialty products? Door protections. You can get really deep in some of these options here. Look at unit masonry. I mean, some of the stuff that you can't even tell by looking at it what it is if you weren't working in that field. All right. Entourage is where you're going to find many of your vehicles. But there's a chair. This is where you're going to find your people. If you want to check scale of things compared to a person, this is where you pull in your people. and you can actually plot people into your building and check how big things are compared to your average person. And you can actually see, how does a person fit in this space? How does a person walk on this crosswalk? How does a person use this walkway? What's it like if a person standing here? How does this person fit through this doorway? It's nice to be able to have people to plop around. There's a computer, a picture frame, a semi-truck. Oh, I got that. I double-clicked by accident, got that message. So, all right, a van. Lots of stuff in there. And that's entourage. You wouldn't know that otherwise. Furniture and furniture system, lots of things for your furniture there. Mass. These are stuff, shapes, gables, domes, pyramids, toruses, triangles, just random shapes. Planting is where you're going to find shrubs and trees of different sorts. Under conifer, deciduous, fall, tropical, each of these is going to have a bunch of subcategories under it. So you double click on fall, for example. Oh, can't do that because I'm in the wrong one. So let's take a look at that. If I go to site, massing and site, change to site component, load family, and I go to planting and fall, now it'll load. If I click the drop down on the properties, now you'll notice under fall, I have a whole bunch of sub options here, telling me the sizes and types of different types of plants, of trees I can put in. If I want to put in, say, a red ash, plop it in there, get nice and close, check out my realistic view, and I can see the kind of tree that I put in. All right. Other things that are going to be of interest to you in here. So there's your planting. Under site, everything in here is going to be of interest to you. Accessories, bike stand, bollard. What's a bollard? Anybody know what a bollard is? There's things that cars can't get into certain areas. If you've got a specific area like that, like you want to block off the front of the building with these or something, that's what they're for. Building sign. Nice. A dumpster. Probably want one of those, right? Flagpole, park bench, planter, trash can. All that stuff's here. Logistics. Concrete truck, construction crane, construction trailer, porta-john, scaffolding, pickup truck, waste container. For the most part, this was probably the only one you're really going to care about there, if you even care about anything in here, but you might. Parking. Curb, direction arrows. Most of the things in here, most of them are parking components. So you're looking at parking components. Most of them are, but some of them aren't. Parking island. These are really interesting. I want to show you what these look like. These are site components. And you'll note that I actually made my parking islands by putting gaps in my actual driveway there. You don't have to do it that way. You can actually do it by using these parking islands. Let me show you here. Parking island. These are smaller ones. I'm going to go for parking island 1. I'll plop it right here. And you can see what you actually get is a nice 3D parking island, the curb and everything. All kind of done up for you. Okay. Parking island double-sided, parking island single-sided, have space for spaces in them. If you want to actually like nest some spaces in your parking island, they're there for you. There's your ADA parking space. That's your handicap parking space ready to go. Regular parking space, ADA parking symbol, and a pavement stripe if you want to actually put stripes down for different other purposes. They're available to you there as well. Okay. So, utilities. Most of these things don't matter to you, but maybe you want a fire hydrant or a manhole cover, a roof drain, utility pole. They're all in there as well. So if you're wondering where that site type stuff is, much of it's under site and in these subfolders here. Specialty and structural. worth flipping through these if you're trying to find something specific, but let's check out sustainable design. There are some interesting things in here you might also want to have. A couple of other bike racks, light shelves, recycling bins, solar panels, mats, water tanks, wind power generators, that kind of stuff. All right, so let's go back to my parking component, my parking spaces. And let's say I want to do 90-degree parking spaces all along this outside part here. Let's see how I might go about doing that. I'm going to just come in here. I'm going to use my space bar to flip in 90-degree intervals. Since it's a 90-degree parking space, I'm not going to use my modify panel here to change it to an angle other than 90 degrees, because it's not what it's designed for. I have other parking spaces here if I want an angled parking space. I'll get to that in a minute. It's a 90-degree parking space, so I'm going to flip it 90 degrees using the space bar. I'm going to plop it right down here in the corner. And you'll see, once I get one in, the other ones kind of snap in place. I don't know if you can see that or not. Kind of snapping in place and lining up. Now, do I have to go around my whole parking lot? Click, 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 click. Utter waste of my time. Let me show you. If you haven't done it yet, I'm going to show you one of my favorite tools. So let's go to Modify. And under my Modify tab here, I have Array. An array is a grouping of things. Super useful. How many of you have used an array so far? Okay. So I'm going to select the things first. I'll select that one and select that one. I got two things. Revit likes you to pick the thing you want to modify first. So pick it, then click what you want to do to it. I picked them. Now I'm going to click Array. My options for array show up in my green options bar right here. So, how many repetitions of the things I selected do I want? So how many groups of 2 do I want? I'm going to have to play with that. I want it to go to the end here. So, you said 7? Try it. 7. Now, options, move to, I'm going to say last. I'm going to tell it where the last one's going to be when I click. And also move to the second one. This would be useful, so like, say I'm putting shelving units out. I might want to tell it, okay, here's the first one. I want to show you where the second one is so I can set the spacing between them. And then you just figure out where all the rest of them go based on that spacing. And I'll fiddle with the numbers to get the right number in there. This is, I want them to end up here. Figure out the spacing to make it work. And then I'll fiddle with the numbers to get that to work right. There's different ways to do it. I'm going to pick last, 7. And then look in the very bottom left corner of my screen, down here. It says click to enter, move start point. The bottom left of your screen is the messages panel. It's where Revit tells you what it wants you to do next. In this case, for the operation you're doing, it's saying click to enter, move start point. If you don't read the messages panel, you'll never know what the next thing you're supposed to do is for some of these operations. It wants to know, where am I starting from? Start from here. Now it says click to enter, move end point. Where am I ending up? I want to end up here-ish. What's that? It is. It's just because the box kind of extends past the edge of the parking lot. That's why it looks that way. There we go. Was 7 the right number? Boy, howdy, look at that. That worked out just right, doesn't it? If it wasn't, I may change it now. Do you see how that number shows up down here? And it says enter array count. I chose 7. 7 was right. I'm going to hit enter. And note, what I have now is 14 parking spaces spaced nicely right along here. Okay. I can also do an array of an array. All right. I could take this whole thing and just stick it over here. I can even pick components of it. Say I want to pick just a few of these. Stick over here somewhere. You can save yourself a ton of time by doing arrays. I can copy some of these and rotate them around. Now that I've got some of these, let's say I want to stick a few of them over here. I'm going to select them. I'm going to go to do, oh, undo. Select, 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 select. I'll just do that number there. And then I'm going to go to a copy option. Okay. Click to enter move start point, it says. I'm going to go there. Move end point. I'm going to stick them there for now. I still haven't selected. I'm going to select my rotate. Rotate them around. Still selected. I'm going to select move. There. There. I can fiddle with it and get them where I want. So use your copy, move, and rotate tools to take components, and once you have them grouped, fussle them around where you want them to end up and make them be where you want them to be. This will simplify your process dramatically for getting parking spaces where you want them and how you want them lined up. So, array, copy, move, and rotate. Questions about any of those 4 tools as far as what we've done right now? Okay. Using those will help you get all of that stuff where you want it. Let's take a look at a couple of other components here. Now, I'm not actually sure what things are parking components and which ones are not. We won't know till we try. I'm going to get my direction arrow. And that was, oddly enough, not a parking component. Who would have thought? Let's go site component, and we'll load in a direction arrow here. And I want people coming in to know this is a two-way drive, right? So I'm going to go plop, plop, like that. And then I'm going to go like this. Actually, site component, I'm going to pick this here. Now it's having issues because of the terrain. I'm just going to move it around a little bit. Site component and straight arrow. Straight arrow. That way. Again, issue because of my terrain. I could play with that to get it where I want. Play with all that stuff, put it where I want it to. I might put a few more arrows, you know, two-way. Two-way, you don't super worry too much about the arrows. Once people get in and they know it's two-way, they kind of figure it out for themselves. One-way, you want to kind of put the arrows down to make sure people know this way is one way, this way, that way is one way, this way, and you want to use the arrows a little more judiciously to make sure people know what they're doing. Okay? So if you're doing one-way sections, make sure you have one-way arrows to show people what to do. A little bit easier for everybody. So then I'm going to come in here, do site component, and I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go for, I think it's under accessories. There's my dumpster. Bring my dumpster back here. Stick it in my dumpster enclosure. Make sure it's turned the right way. Yep, dumpster's good. And I'll just go around and pick out all the different things I want to put on and make everything nice and pretty and finalized. I'll get all my curbing where I want my curbing to go. I'll get all my sidewalks where I want my sidewalks to go. All my landscaping, parking islands, parking spaces, all that stuff. Any questions about the different components I showed you today? Anyway. All right, so let's say this section of my parking spot area is two-way, but this area is one-way. Let's come in here, and the lines you're seeing here are my trees, by the way. Go ahead and hide those. Boom. All right, makes it a little easier to see. We can always bring them back later. Parking component, angled, and let's go 60 degree. Much the same way, yes. Pop. But if you're going to do angled, yeah. You really wouldn't do much else other than 90 and 60, even though the options were given to you there. So then I'm going to take this guy. And are you seeing now, by the way, the reason why I said you typically don't want to use subregions for parking lots? I used one for this because you can see the lines here, right? You can see my my topographic lines. So I use a subregion. What's the problem I'm having because I use subregions? My ground does this, right? My ground changes elevation. All of my parking stripes and parking components are like this. Well, if my ground does this at any point, it's going to cover parts of my parking components, cover some of my stripes. So that's why I said you're really, really best off using your split surfaces when you're doing parking lots. Parking lots don't typically have changes in elevation. Usually when they make a parking lot, they flatten the surface, make a parking lot there. Don't do it that way. This is a very old file I made 6 years ago. I highly recommend learn from my experiences. Use split surface, not subregion. And that's why if you're going to ask me, if your next question is going to be, Mr. King, where's your yellow line here? Under the pavement, because the pavement did this. It made it hard to see. So I can still come in here though and select it, and select this one. Can't even select it. Can't even select it. Look at that. Yes. Unity. Or you mean Enscape, this here? I have a couple different programs like that. And yes, I could do that either way, for sure. So then I'm just going to do my array of this. So Mark, to answer your question, I'm just going to get this angled parking spot here. I'll do an array. And I'll say, what do you think? 15? 15. Move start point. Move endpoint. There they are. Same way, really, no different. And I'm going to take them, I'm going to copy them, I'm going to rotate them and flop them around to the back side here. Now, obviously, as you can see, I did not leave enough space for that back here, so I probably would not put parking spaces behind this. You likely designed yours a little better than I did. What if I want a parking island on this? If you noticed, parking island, it's not big enough, is it? Cover the whole thing, right? But if I wanted to go the whole length, just cover the whole length of the whole thing. Thoughts? What do you think I can do? There you go. Let's go edit type, duplicate. And let's say GWK custom parking island. There we go. Length, width, right there. Right? 42 feet, not enough. Let's say 150. I have no idea how long it should be. Well, that was pretty good, wasn't it? Look at me. Yep. Duplicate it, give it a name, change the length, boom, there you're done. Yep. And they'll all work the same way. So they come into massing site component, load family. Oh, let's get rid of this one first. Site component, load family. Say you want the double-sided one, this guy, right? That one's already pretty long. But I want you to notice if I come in here and say I want this thin part here in the middle wider. Parking depth is there, right? I actually have two different types. I can change the type. So you can play with it all. play with them, make them work for you. So that is parking spaces, parking components, adding landscaping. This is your opportunity now to finalize this project and get it ready for final presentations. What we're able to do with your project as far as final presentation will depend a lot on how long it takes you to finalize this last component. I got lots of options for you doing your final presentation for this. And we've been experimenting with lots of different options this year. So I will give you those options when the time comes based on how much time we have to work with your project. Go ahead and finalize your last few components here and get to work.